wrestling fans, from body slams to high-flying plans. Join the chat, hear the scoops, jump in quick, don't be a stoop. We're throwing down in every match, with tales and fights that you can't catch. The Marks Podcast is the place to be, for every wrestling mystery.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tony Chimmel, the GOAT of ring announcers. And you're listening to the Marks Podcast on YouTube.
Hello, people. Hello, Jacob. What you guys are witnessing right now is not wrong. Dan, unfortunately, cannot be with us tonight.
I'm right here.
Oh, he is here.
I just have to get ready for work, so y'all are in charge.
But with that being said, we also have the kid back, too.
Jacob's Corner ain't no ordinary space. He rants and raves with that fire in his face. Every word a racket, shaking up the place. The whole block hears him setting his pace.
So I had a case of monkeypox, and that was why I could not be on the show. No, but in all seriousness, I have fallen on some hard times. It's going to be very depressing, Jacob McGovern here tonight on the Marks Podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I'm okay. But no, it's good.
I figured it was because you got to meet your hero and he gave you monkeypox.
Yep. Yeah. No, it definitely it was a sad experience, but I will say I'm doing better than Chris Benoit is right now. And yes, we're back. Yeah, it's good to see. Good to see everyone. Good to be back on the show. Good to talk about some Wrestlemanias. I don't really have much to rant about this week on
Jacob's Corner where the truth ignites. No holding back, no silent nights. His race cuts through the darker lights. Every lance a battle, every word a fight.
So
we'll see as the show goes on.
So, I thought about how we can start the show, Jacob, and the first thing I want to talk about is Saraya Knight. And let's get to where she's going to be coming to her contract ending, or contract is ending with AEW, because as she has said, she has fulfilled everything she could to do with AEW. How do you feel about that? Has she fulfilled everything she could do with AEW, or once Mercedes Moné was brought into the picture, that basically pushed Saraya out the door?
Well, I mean, Mercedes Moné pushed her neck out of place. So, yeah, I mean, it's like there's got to be some type of heat there. Maybe Saraya's not super bitter about it because, again, she got to wrestle again. And that was pretty much the whole reason why she came to AEW, is because she wasn't getting cleared in WWE.
Well, she got to win the title at Wembley Stadium. I mean, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, and I just remember how insignificant that was when it happened. It was a big pop for the arena, but then she lost it a month later or something like that. She had a really short reign from my recollection.
I think that, and me and Gerard have talked about it. It's kind of fucking bittersweet because you have Saraya Bevis, who's been literally wrestling since she was in the womb, and you bring in this piece of trash wrestler. And I'm not talking about her as a human being. I'm talking about her as a wrestler. I'm sorry, she can't. There's no quality there for me. And you overshadow a woman who literally has fought through adversity, done everything. Yeah, she had some bad mistakes. Let's not talk about Alberto Del Rio. We won't talk about all the other crap. But literally has been nothing but a professional in AEW. Put people over, won the belt, and on her way was putting people over. And yet, no fanfare, no nothing, just bye-bye.
Would you guys both agree that Mercedes Moné going to AEW with 100% creative control has killed that women's division? Because if it's not about Mercedes Moné and she's in a match, anybody close in skill, in my mind, Mercedes Moné took over for Jade Cargill to where we're going to have her wrestle women that are beneath her just to make Mercedes look better.
I'll put it this way. If Mercedes beats Athena, that women's division there is done.
If that happens, man, no, I already have like a bad taste in my mouth about that. It's pretty much unfortunate that this had to happen with Saraya, because I agree like that she could just be useful behind the scenes, you know, if not like if they don't have anything for her like on TV, you know, she has a bunch of experience. She could really help that division out, I think, behind the scenes. But they just let her go, and it's kind of, you know, unfortunate. Like, I mean, she's obviously going to go back to WWE. That kind of goes without saying. So,
you know what? How you just said that, okay? I like how you just said that, because think about it like this: they don't even want to use her behind the scenes.
Well, it's crazy, Gerard. It's become a complete flip. You know how everybody bitched for years about Super Cena and he never loses, and you know the fans are tired of Super Cena. There are clear people. The boos. They weren't booing her because she's good in AEW or that she's a heel. They're booing her because they're tired of her. And it's not like Athena is a face. Athena in Ring of Honor is despised.
Yeah, she got a big reaction. I was really happy about that.
So I actually watched that part last night when Mercedes Moné trying to grab the mic when Tony Schiavone's in the ring. And then Athena comes out, music pops, and Athena hits her finisher on the girl that was going against Mercedes. Somebody on the internet actually gave last night's segment an A-. I see by your silence you're wondering how the hell they gave that segment an A-. And my thing about that is the people who worship Mercedes Moné, for some reason or another, they're going to worship her no matter. She could shit green and they're going to worship her. Okay?
I mean, that'd probably redeem her a little bit in my eyes. If she just shat green one night, like on Dynamite, I'd be like, all right, you know, at least she has something that's different.
But I'm saying is, from the time she left WWE to the time she went to AEW, it's been a little over a year now. Can anybody tell me anything that's blown her out of the water in AEW that makes you want to watch her in AEW?
Dude, I don't remember her last 3 opponents.
I just know she wrestled Billy Starks recently, and I was really sad to see that happen because, you know, Billy Starks is actually really good. And it's kind of unfortunate that because they were building up Billy Starks in Ring of Honor to beat Athena, and then I don't know, they just pivoted for no reason. So now they're back to square one with Billy Starks. I don't know. That's weird. But again, they don't know what the fuck to do in either division in both of these companies that Tony Khan runs. And like nobody watches ROH. That goes without saying. But like, and is Jericho still the champion for ROH?
Here's the thing for you too, okay? When it comes to that, and then you see what just happened with TNA. Let's go talk about TNA now too, with Gail Kim being fired. Gail Kim, in my opinion, take away the fact that WWE could not find a way for her to do something. Not a bad wrestler.
No, she's amazing.
Correct. But what could she do? She could enhance talent. Mercedes Moné.
If it wasn't for Gail Kim, Awesome Kong would have never been Awesome Kong.
Right.
Yep. Well, and by all accounts of like everyone who's come out about this whole Gail Kim situation, like even the male wrestlers say like she was helpful behind the scenes with the male wrestlers too. Like, you know, it wasn't, I don't know. It's a weird situation. I'm not sure entirely like the nitty gritty of what happened. But yeah, that's just something like, cause I thought she was a TNA lifer at this point. Like, I didn't think like she would get let go.
I'll tell you what I'd love to see on this new show that WWE has, LFGs. I would love to see Gail Kim part of the LFG thing. There's got to be knowledge there that she could bring down and stuff like that. Her and Mickie James and all. Because I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys might agree, but between Next and LFG, is it me or are they pushing
fucking Next?
NXT, are they pushing the women on that show and this LFG so much more than the men?
Well, you also understand they're about to come back, the repackaging and coming out with that pay-per-view Evolution again.
Let me ask you this, okay? Both of you guys' opinion on this. What would you guys say if they opened that up to every wrestling company?
I don't think they would, but I mean,
I'm saying
I'd say if they open it up to promotions like, because they already have a working relationship with GCW and stuff like that. And like, with this ID program they got going on, I think they really could do something special like that if they really want to do an all women's show like that.
They could. And what would the pop be for someone like fucking Tessa Blanchard to walk through the door there?
Hey, here's the thing.
Hulk Hogan, we coming for you. No, I'm just
Hey, what if you open it up to something like that and you call Tony Khan now you call Tony Khan on the phone. We'll give you a match on our pay-per-view. Your best 2 women that you want to promote.
He's gonna put
Send them on over.
Mercedes.
That you just said it. Instead of Tony Storm, he'd send Mercedes. Now, if you send Tony Storm versus Mercedes Moné, problem is you will expose Mercedes Moné.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is like really, WWE really doesn't have like, like as far as like a Tony Storm type character, like as far in the women's division, because the women's division, they're not really like in WWE, they're not really character based. Like Tony Storm is like a character.
But she can wrestle though, Jacob.
Never mind,
like,
I take that back, Chelsea Green.
Listen, I'll put it to you like this. You know who's somebody right now who's amazing to me right now? And her and the girl that she's going against. Naomi and Jade Cargill right now. I'm interested to see where this goes because you guys might agree, depending on how this goes, it makes or breaks Jade Cargill. Naomi's
in the same position in there, if they were to do something like that where they brought the companies together, there's 2 girls I'd love to see in a match together because I think they're right at the same point in their careers as far as technically. Megan Bain and Jade Cargill.
Who's the other one there? Camille? What about Camille and Jade?
I know what happened to Camille. That's such a weird situation.
Right.
Yeah, that is one.
Like I don't know what happened with her because she was with Mercedes for some reason. I thought even that was stupid because Camille is great on her own. She can talk, she can wrestle. Weird situation. Then this movie just comes out and she's a big part of this movie and they have this whole AEW segment where they're like, oh, we're on the red carpet for fucking Queens of the Ring? I don't know what the movie is called. But and like Camille is like a big part of this movie and they don't show her at all. Like she was nowhere to be found. And I don't know. It's weird.
Tony Khan is just showing that he does not know what the fuck he's doing. I'm sorry, man. It's all look. Everything we talk about here is opinion based. Calm it down, Jacob. Calm it down.
Well, listen. Now, Dan, to go from this though, let's go to another woman who had a story this week too. Let's go to Linda Bollea, otherwise known as Mrs. Hulk Hogan. Do we?
You talking about her crying and looking like a fucking version of the Crypt Keeper?
Looking
like she got hit by a shovel, dude. I'm sorry. Like she looked.
Yeah, you ever seen the movie Gremlins 2?
Yes.
So now, is it me or is there anybody on the planet who really cares about the inner family squabbles of the Hogans? Okay, don't get me wrong. Hulk Hogan made a fortune for his family, but Linda Bollea now is complaining the fact of because he's moved on with his life. Now she wants a piece of that pie that she moved on, she settled on. I will be the first to admit. Do I believe Hulk Hogan was the greatest husband in the world, greatest father in the world?
Before you start talking, how much did he pay you from his Real American Beer to kiss his ass?
No. Let me finish. Do I believe Hulk Hogan was the greatest father, greatest husband in the world? Absolutely not. Okay, because of the way he worked and stuff like that. But newsflash: how many fathers on a daily basis go off to work, spend time away from their families and stuff like that? And they lose a lot of time because they're putting food on the table for their families.
Well, I mean, her biggest thing was he's a liar and a sex addict.
She didn't complain about that for how many years they were together? 25?
Yeah, I'm just like, this is fucking Hulk Hogan we're talking about here. I mean, like, it's like when I saw this happen, because I was scrolling on Facebook and I'm just like, oh, this is unfortunate, because seeing Linda Hogan look like that was really unfortunate. And then Brooke Hogan came out and said something. I'm like, I haven't heard the name Brooke Hogan in years. But
hey, Nerfy said hello to you, Jacob, by the way. Nerfy said hello.
I know, I saw.
Well, another thing, she's complaining about Brooke not talking to her. Well, you fucked her best friend, you dumbass.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too. Yep.
Well,
But here's the thing, like, it's Hulk Hogan, man. I mean, it's Hogan knows
take it
best.
for what it is.
Yeah. If
You
they
know?
brought back Hogan Knows Best now, I think it would be awesome. Like I say, bring it back. Stick the cameras in everyone's faces. Do it. Have Hulk Hogan talk about how he got pile drived by the Undertaker in the '70s, even though the Undertaker wasn't wrestling in the '70s.
Like I said, when you bring that up, it's like Linda wasn't complaining when that money was coming into her hand. She wasn't complaining. Now, because the money's not coming in her hand, nobody wants to pay attention to her. Hogan's doing his thing with the beer. Brooke is off doing a thing with her own husband, having her kids and stuff like that. And the saint of the family now is Nick.
Oh, you mean the kid that put a guy who comatose a kid and made him fucking mentally, just fucked his life up forever?
That's what it was his fault, though, too. Remember that when they said it was he put himself in that situation.
That's what I'm saying. Are we now to believe the saint of this family now is Nick because he's the one that not being out there? He's the one who's not saying anything.
When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside.
When you see all these stories come out, you say to yourself, "Do I really?"
You say to yourself, "You got to take a stand. It don't help to hide."
But do I need to hear about this crap? No.
But Gerard, when you hurt my friends, then you hurt my pride. I got to be a man.
I can't let it hide.
Can't let it slide.
Yep. So here's the thing with Hulk Hogan, or Hulk Hogan as the Ultimate Warrior used to call him.
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
The Hulk Hogan, Bubba. The Hulk Hogan.
But here's the thing: the fact that Hulk Hogan is still relevant is, it's a testament to him now, because him getting booed, that brought him back. I say bring back Hulk Hogan every week. It'd be great. I'm always going to be a Hulkamaniac at heart. But no, I'm just fucking kidding. But
okay, Nerfy. I read what Nerfy said, but all she did was talk shit about him to those kids. There have been interviews where Brooke and Nick have said all their mom did was just trash their dad. They weren't trashing him whenever he was bringing back. When we had 4 cars, Nick had everything he ever wanted. Brooke had some sort of music career.
They had a monkey too, I think, at one point. I watched Hogan Knows Best back in the day. No, but for real, no. We're talking about a guy who had a sex tape leak, and he's talking about the black dudes that his daughters are fucking on the sex tape. Come on, we're talking. This is the guy we're talking about.
Wait a minute, and he got paid.
None of them are saints here. No one's a hero here.
It's just oh man, where's my Hulkamania?
Hey, and he got paid $60 million.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, he came out.
And she's upset because she wants some of that money.
Hey, he put a company out of business.
Yep.
Now,
hey, someone's got to pay for all that hair gel and all that stuff for his skullet.
You know what's funny is, here we are, we're 3 weeks away from WrestleMania, and we're talking about Saraya, Hulk Hogan, people who have nothing to do with it. So, you know what? Let's flip the script. Let's start talking about this year's WrestleMania. Let's not talk about Mr. Juan Cena.
Yeet.
Okay? The steam that is gone I think the steam from Yeet is letting out because you've had too much of a time from March 1st to April 20th.
The steam is look. The steam is thinning on Yeet like Hulk Hogan's hairline.
Exactly. Are we just because fuck John Cena and Cody Rhodes for a minute, but can we talk about Jey Uso and Gunther, because the build up to this match has been one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I said it from the moment Jey won the fucking Rumble. So the moment he won the Rumble, and I was like, they can't do fucking 9 weeks of this. They can't.
It's supposed to be a feel-good moment, Jacob. That's all it is. And I told you that from the jump.
Jacob, I'm going to tell you this right now. You know what's overshadowing a main event at WrestleMania for a heavyweight title? CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins right now is blowing that out of the water.
Because you have you have 2 of your most popular stars, and then you have Seth Rollins.
Yeah. Yes. God, that is Seth really needs to go away after WrestleMania.
What's the favor, guys? What's going to be the favor?
A hand job from Roman Reigns.
On live television?
Yes, live hand job celebration.
Live sex celebration.
Because I'll tell you this right now. So Can you see the happiness in CM Punk right now?
He cried. The motherfucker legitimately cried.
He was tearing up because that's what if you watch his documentary, dude, that's all he was talking about, man.
Nerfy, you're killing me.
Yeah.
Even
It's time for Jacob to start wearing jorts.
Hey, even with his receiving,
right now,
Dan, I'll tell you this right now. I got a pair. And I'm not going to ruin anything about next week, but
no, seriously, we have we're in a position because Jey Uso is not going to main event WrestleMania, and it's so funny.
First match of night one.
First match of night one, he's going to open the show, and then they're going to say, well, it's a special main event. Like they're going to go out of their way to try to make that special. I hope.
Look, with as bad as his performances have been the last couple of weeks, I would not be surprised if Gunther goes ahead and beats him.
I would.
That's what it is, because the steam is falling off because they've let him go too long, and now the other point is they've been overseas for this long.
Well, and not to mention he fell on his head when he tried to dive out, and then it was so embarrassing. And then everyone gave him a pass, but then y'all were fucking making fun of Top Dollar for fucking 2 years because of that.
Yeah, but Top Dollar should never dive.
That's true, also, but still, it's like, come on, no one said shit about that, and it's like that was embarrassing. That killed everything about this. It's like
Adolf Gunther is going to win.
I would say they picked the wrong time to go overseas because you're not giving that American crowd any kind of props. Now, when they come back to America, not this week, but the next week, what kind of crowd are they going to come back to? Especially when what we've been seeing over in Europe. The crowds in Europe have been absolutely insane.
Well, that's what you get. You've heard the expression, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? They never go there. Plus, not only that, they went there and they fucking went onto their time zones and their time schedule. Yep. So, yeah.
And we still we still have a whole apparently we have a pay-per-view in India coming up, and we got another. I think they're going back overseas soon too. So
you know what was crazy? I bought some shirts from WWE, I bought some old CM Punk merch, but when I was looking through the superstars, I found something for Jacob, and I thought about buying it so bad. It was this amazing, beautiful autograph picture of the modern day Maharaja Jinder Mahal. I thought about it, and I looked at it, and then I was like, wait a minute. It said $120 marked down to $14.99.
Aw, poor Jinder. Okay. I like to think that that's a fluke somehow.
So my thing is, when it comes to Cody and John Cena, we're obviously looking at WrestleMania night 2. Roman Reigns, the triple threat match is going to be night 1. Gunther versus Jey opens up night 1. Let me ask you a question, Dan and Jacob. Are we still missing Money in the Bank right now? Because
no.
Money in the Bank, man.
No. I'm saying is, could there be somebody who could cash? Because listen, I'm also looking to Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. I think that's going to be a very.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I see playing out. I'll tell you exactly what I see playing out. All right, John Cena's winning that title. John Cena is going to become the 17-time world champion. I think Randy Orton has been doing the best work he's done in years. It's going to be Randy Orton to take that belt off of John Cena. I think Kevin Owens is going to beat Randy Orton for that title, and Sami Zayn is going to win the Royal Rumble next year and take that belt off of Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 42. Book it, print some money. There you go. I just promoted your entire next year. You're welcome. That's the end of the show. You'll have a good night.
And where's Cody Rhodes in this?
I could give 2 fucks.
I think, man, because of this build, the way this build has been going with good old heel Cena and Cody Rhodes, I think everyone, his promos have been great. The 2 of them that we've had, and I think everyone was expecting the music change, the attire change. I still think we are going to get a music change at some point. I just think it's needed, but. I don't know, man. It's just lackluster.
I love his reasoning. You don't get it, Jacob. You don't deserve a music change. You don't deserve a attire change. You don't deserve a haircut. Fuck you. I am John Cena.
It's all about him. It's all about John Cena. Okay. my other question is: has this woman fallen off the map right there? That woman?
Exactly. Look at him, Jacob. You get nothing. You get nothing.
Hey, listen, we're not going to quote Caddyshack. I want a hamburger. I want a hot dog. You'll get nothing like it.
Well, it's just like the same structure has been happening these past 2 weeks. And this Monday coming up is the last time John Cena is going to be on anything until WrestleMania. So I don't know what they can do.
No, hold on. That they've announced.
That's true. I can't believe that.
They want to make you believe that.
It'd be pretty cool if he didn't, though, because then Cody Rhodes would have to carry this by himself, and then he gets even more exposed. But the problem is I don't know, that they need to do something different this Monday. Also, we're forgetting that this Friday night we're getting the debut of Rey Fenix on SmackDown, so that's been
Which I think they've done a good. I think they've done a good thing. They separated the brothers. They put one on SmackDown, one on Raw.
Yeah, I'm just glad. Well, I'm surprised that he's debuting like right before WrestleMania.
Did you see the guy that just debuted Monday? Oh my God, he's so amazing. What was his name?
Generico.
No.
El Grande
Americano. What, dude? Where did this guy come from? I mean, he's so talented.
From the Gulf of America too. It was fucking awesome.
I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, there was a guy back, some years that came out as Mr. America in a mask. But I think his name.
I think he's pushing American beer now or something.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
the other guy,
Mr. America was though.
So the other guy, I think, is a guy from Minnesota who, he comes out and the crowd starts chanting, I think you suck. He tried to have an angle like a former wrestler.
He wasn't from Minnesota. He was from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
No,
in fact,
no. That guy was from Pennsylvania. The guy who El Generico, or El Grande, or whatever his name is, I think he's from Minnesota. He's robbing the gimmick of the guy from Pittsburgh, where people chant "you suck," but he's doing it from underneath the mask. I wonder who that guy could be. He's an All-American.
Is WWE trying to say that America sucks?
He's an All-American, but
It's
Jason
Jordan with the skin bleach. That's how
and again, El Generico was from Montreal.
Yeah. Okay. So El Generico was, yes. But speaking of that, to go off topic for a second, let's talk about the NCAA wrestler who had this great career coming up for WWE, goes back and loses.
Let it go. It happens.
Poor Gable Steveson.
Yeah.
He didn't have charisma. I'm sorry. Like, his match with Baron Corbin was trash. It
was horrible.
The thing was, they tried to push him to be the next Kurt Angle. It wasn't going to happen.
Well, to the point where the crowd
literally definitely ain't going to happen now.
Not Angle. And by the way, are we glossing over the fact that they were charging fucking $120 for a Jinder Mahal signed fucking tube, whatever it was? Was it an 8x? Well, like how? That's fucking insane to me, because that means
it's an actual signature of Jinder Mahal on a photo.
I know, but like my
Jacob,
love for
do you think
Jinder
it should have been
Mahal
more?
aside, but like they're probably
It's only $14.99 now, Jacob.
Look,
You should jump on that.
What's up?
It's only $14.99 now. You should jump on that.
Dan,
Yeah,
I think he thinks it should have been more.
Yeah. But like that means they're probably charging more for like Baron Corbin and like fucking
Actually, he was the cheapest autograph I saw there. Jinder Mahal was the cheapest. Even the Baron Corbin stuff was a little more expensive, and so yeah.
Wait, hold on. His was $14.99. Heath Slater's was $15.99.
He's a one-man band. Yeah, but remember, Gerard, he's got kids.
And he's
got kids.
Oh yeah, 6 of how many months do you have to feed? 6?
I got kids.
That was great. Good era.
Good
era of SmackDown.
That reminds me of like you want to talk?
Yeah, like I'm serious. Like, yeah, Leland's right. You should probably go get that, because if he returns, it'll be worth so much more.
Well, they are going to India at some point this year, so I mean, you're probably right. He might be coming back, and if he is, well, then you will get,
that's when WWE is going to get that one big tall Indian guy from fucking AEW. They'll steal him like they're stealing everybody else.
Listen, we've had a report from Jinder Mahal, not Jinder Mahal, the great Khali, saying he's done with wrestling. Thank God.
Leave the memories of love.
Now, there was another thing that came up about wrestling too, and I'm trying to remember what it was now. I've had a brain fart. I had it on my tongue, and I forgot about it. And you'll have to.
You farted on your own tongue. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah. You'll have to let me come back to it. Continue on.
Okay, so WrestleMania is coming up, and I'm really excited for the Randy Orton Kevin Owens match specifically. I really hope they add a stipulation to it because they need.
Does Sami Zayn get involved in that match though?
No. Sami Zayn is taking time off.
Yeah, I think he's injured right now, which sucks. But yeah, I think we're still gonna have a multi-man match.
Hello, House of Chayton. Thank you for the super chat. Sorry, I didn't see that. I'm doing this from my fucking phone, so it's awkward.
I also Chayton. But yeah, I still think we're getting like a multi-man match for one of the mid-card titles. Say that 10 times fast. And the other matches, again, we're going back to Jade Cargill and Naomi. I hope they have a singles match on WrestleMania because that'd be the first time that they've had a singles women's match that wasn't for a title. So that'd be pretty cool. I don't know. Yeah, WrestleMania, the build, I think compared to last year is a little bit lackluster, but
Very much so.
Well, would you guys agree that with the new way that WWE does business, where they take these cities' fees, whatever the fee is, okay, we're going to take $10 million to come and do our show there. Now, we don't care whether we put one ass in the seat or 90,000 asses in the seats. We still got our $10 million. Now it's
because that's the thing, Gerard. They are paying the WWE to come to their city.
That's what I'm saying. So WWE doesn't care how many people show up no more because they already got their guaranteed money.
Or how much they fucking charge for their fucking events now, because you've seen the ticket.
It goes back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago, Gerard. WrestleMania 1 was paid for by the Crockett's and to the tune of about $1 million. Now, cities are paying 10 times that to WWE to do the job.
And the problem is, okay, you're not getting your return of investment on some of these cities because why? To me, a city like Vegas doesn't need additional tourism. They don't need it.
Vegas.
They're going to get it. Vegas is going to get that additional tourism. What city lost out to Vegas this year that should have had it? Minneapolis? Orlando? Dallas? Where could they have put it to where?
Vegas upset because you wanted to come to Dallas to watch WrestleMania.
I just wish it would. I just wish it would come.
I'd be just like I'd want to go to Texas for All In. Yeah, okay.
You can tell your guy to let me know if he can get me seats there for that.
Well, the way they cut in payroll. But now,
yeah, no, the ticket prices suck nowadays.
But with this being said, I'm glad you guys brought this point up. Part of the program that we're talking about is WrestleMania season. So because of the WrestleManias that we're going to be talking about, and we will need to get into some of these in a little in depth, I say we start getting into it. And we're going to go back, and we're going to, because if you guys watched the last time we were on, we talked WrestleManias 1 through 10.
Yeah, Jacob.
Yeah.
This week, we're going to start with WrestleMania 11. Okay? And I'm going to preface this by telling you where it was at.
I'll be back.
The buys. Okay? And then we'll go to the matches. Okay, Jacob? So WrestleMania 11 was in the Hartford Civic Center, Hartford, Connecticut. Capacity is 15,000. Okay? The buy rate was 1.4 million. Now let's go through the matches. Okay? You had a tag team match with the Allied Powers, Lex Luger and the British Bulldog, versus the Blue Twins, Eli Blue and Jacob Blue, with Uncle Zebediah. Did it do anything for anybody's career?
I don't know, man. Ron and Don Harris, the Blues Brothers, I think they were,
they were better in the Attitude Era. They were better in the Attitude Era.
This match specifically put them on the map. No, this is a big nothing. This really whole event is kind of a big nothing burger of an event. But there's some good on it.
The match after that was Jeff Jarrett with the Roadie versus Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid. This could have been great. Here's the problem. Okay? Nobody knew that Roadie would turn into the Road Dogg Jesse James, and the 1-2-3 Kid would turn into X-Pac. So it was like, nah.
It's very it's a very odd era for this match, I think, but it's a it's a good little time capsule if you go back and watch it, seeing Double J back then.
Wait till you hear it. So this next match was King Kong Bundy with Ted DiBiase. Now, special referee was Larry Young, whoever the hell Larry Young was, versus The Undertaker versus Paul Bearer. We all know how that turned out.
Yep.
So I think it might have been King Kong Bundy's last match.
I think in WWE it probably was. I think I might have to double check on that. But
Then you had the Smoking Guns, Bart and Billy Gunn, the Champs versus Camp Cornette, Owen Hart, and Yokozuna, with James Cornette and Mr. Fuji. Now, if memory serves me right, I honestly think Owen Hart and Yokozuna won the tag titles on this.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they did. Oh shit, we got Nerfy for $2.
Oh yeah, I told you she already commented on you, Jacob. Then you had the I Quit match with special referee Roddy Piper, Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund. I don't think that lasted that long.
Yeah, no, there's no way that did. Especially during at that time, because this is WrestleMania 11. This was 95, right?
Hold on, let me just go back. Yeah, this was during the very down years. April 2nd, 1995. This was very down years. Then we had WWF Championship match. Diesel with Pamela Anderson in his corner.
Hell yeah.
This was back in the day where Pamela Anderson, versus Shawn Michaels with Jenny McCarthy and Psycho Sid.
Also great, Jenny McCarthy.
Hey, I don't know about you, but I wasn't paying attention to Shawn Michaels and Diesel. I was paying attention.
Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know about this match. But honestly, it's probably like one of the better matches that Diesel and Shawn had.
But you get my point on this one. I think I was paying more attention to Jenny McCarthy and Pamela Anderson than I was to the match.
Yep, I mean, good on. I mean, they were smart to do that. I can't fault them for that.
Then you had the singles match. Bam Bam Bigelow with IRS, King Kong Bundy, Nikolai Volkov, Tatanka, and Ted DiBiase. That's who's in his corner. Versus LT, Lawrence Taylor, of the New York Giants fame, with Carl Banks, Chris Spielman, Dino Caraccio, Ken Norton Jr., Reggie White, Ricky Jackson, and Steve McMichael. Okay? Now, the match itself, Bam Bam carried that whole match.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that kind of goes without saying there. But, I'll be honest, LT in the ring, not too bad. I mean, as far as today's standards go, I'll say this, he's better than Shaq was when Shaq was in AEW. I mean, that goes without saying, too. But it's like...
When Shaq was in AEW, when Shaq was in WCW?
Yep. Yeah, or when, better than a lot of the... I mean, I'd say... controversial hot take here. I say better than Bad Bunny. So,
well, you know who trained LT for this? LT was trained by Pat Patterson for that.
Oh, that makes sense.
And that's why it went across so well. So that was
it sure is a good time.
So that was WrestleMania 11. Okay, like I told you, 1.4 million buys. That's 1995. Okay, now we get to 1996. We're at WrestleMania 12. Anaheim, California, the Pond, 18,852. Okay. Tomorrow would be the 29th anniversary of this show. 1.2 million buys. So last year in WrestleMania 11, we had 1.4. This one we had 1.2 million buys. Okay. We had a World Tag Team title tournament, free-for-all. The Godwins, okay, with Hillbilly Jim in the corner versus the Body Donna with Skip and Zip with Sonny. Now, the titles were vacant. Okay, if I'm right, the Body Donna won the titles.
I believe so.
So WrestleMania 12, we're going to talk about Sonny. Wow. What a downturn this woman has taken in her life.
Yeah. I was about to go on this little diatribe because Skip and Zip, that was Chris Candido and who else?
If I'm right, it wasn't it.
It was Dr. Tom, right?
Dr. Tom Bridges, yes.
Okay, so I have to say, by all accounts, that was pretty an underrated tag team at the time. I mean, stupid gimmick, but those two together, I'd say solid team. But Sonny as a valet was great. I'd say that, back in the day.
Her look was fantastic.
Her look, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the presentation of it was great. her cutting promos not so great, but
right
again. It's sad, it's unfortunate to go back and watch and to see just how good she used to look, quite frankly, compared to now, because that goes without saying. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate, really.
After that, we had the 6-man tag match: Ahmed Johnson, Jake Roberts, and Yokozuna versus Camp Cornette, Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, and Vader. Okay. I don't really remember a lot about this match, but I'll tell you this right now. Think about the poundage. Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, and Vader versus Ahmed to Yokozuna and Jake. Now, on paper, this should be no brainer. It should have been Ahmed, Jake, and Yokozuna going over. I can't remember exactly who went over in this. I think it was the baby faces going over. And, but let's take a look at all the guys. Ahmed Johnson was gone out of the company. Yokozuna passed away. Jake Roberts is still hanging on by a string. Owen Hart, we know. British Bulldog, we know. And Vader, So think about it. If somebody would have told me 29 years ago that Jake Roberts would be the one guy alive in this,
yeah.
I don't know about Ahmed Johnson. I would have bet money saying, yeah, okay, I'll take this bet any day. That Jake Roberts would be the one still alive. I would have taken that bet. Because think about that. That's the only thing about that match that sticks out to you. Jake Roberts is the one still alive.
That's insane. Especially because I think the most recent one to die I think Vader was the most recent one, right?
Yeah.
So it's sad also to see a lot of these old pay-per-views that just see how many people are just not around anymore.
Then we get to the match that WWE is about to start doing Hall of Fame matches. I think this match I'm about to bring up is a Hall of Fame match. Roddy Piper versus Goldust in the backlot brawl.
Yep.
Where you had the OJ chase and stuff like that. What's sad is once they got to the arena, it took a back seat to what happened actually at the backlot.
Well, the cool thing about that is really this whole thing is the thread throughout the whole show. If you really watch the show, this is the thread throughout the show. It goes through. So that's insane because they're so prominently featured throughout the show. But yeah, I would agree. This is probably
the sad part about this is this was supposed to have been Goldust versus Razor Ramon. He didn't want to do it, so Piper stepped up to do it. And I don't think you could have done this any better than what these two guys did.
Oh, there's no way.
So if you're going to talk about a match that should be inducted, that's a match that should be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Well, plus, Razor Ramon wasn't really a brawler, so it just wouldn't have worked stylistically.
Right.
It would have just would have looked bad, on paper.
Now, the funny part about that is, the match after that was somebody's first match in WrestleMania. Savio Vega versus Steve Austin with Ted DiBiase. So was it the ringmaster? Yes. And if I'm right, that was a strap match, though. I'm trying to remember. I think that was a strap match. I think Savio Vega got the win, if I'm right. But it did nothing to hurt Austin's career. Yep. I think Savio Vega melted off into the sunset.
Yeah, that's true. Up until that one time he came to Backlash that one year when they were in Puerto Rico, that was
right.
He hasn't seen in WWE since this.
And then you had the singles match of the Ultimate Warrior versus Triple H with Sable. Once again, did nothing to hurt Triple H. I think Ultimate Warrior was just looking for a paycheck because he was gone. He was almost gone right after that.
Yeah, I think this was probably his last match in the company too. I think. Or at least at the time, or maybe he might have stayed a couple months after.
If it was '96, that was following up right to the May thing in Madison Square Garden, the curtain call.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because this next match is about the curtain call with Diesel versus The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. Obviously, Undertaker won the title. So Diesel lost the title at WrestleMania, and then a month later, him and Razor Ramon were out of the company.
Well, and the thing is, the legend has it is that Diesel was supposed to win this match. So if Diesel had won, we would.
Oh, that was a single. That wasn't for the title. That was just a singles match. Sorry.
Yeah, if Diesel would have won, we would have never gotten the streak. So
right now, the WWF. Now, the last match of this match was the Iron Man match between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. One of the top 5 WrestleMania matches of all time.
Yep, that kind of. I would say that too. I honestly, in my opinion, this isn't my favorite Bret and Shawn match, but I do like it quite a bit. It's probably one of the better Iron Man matches I've seen. I can't really think of a better one.
You know what made it so good is the fact of Shawn was the heat, Bret was the baby. Here's my problem with that: they could both wrestle. So the crowd didn't know which one to go for because they could both wrestle. But then you hear Shawn Michaels, he wins. Oh, his boyhood dreams have come true. He's sitting in the middle of the ring with the belt, crying and stuff like that. Okay.
Yep.
It didn't hurt Bret. It didn't hurt Shawn either. Okay. So both their careers kept going where they were going. Right.
Yep.
And with all that,
they stayed best friends forever after this.
Yes. Now we go to WrestleMania 13. In the Rosemont Horizon, 18,197. I told you the buy rate for WrestleMania 12 was 1.4. Hold on, let me make sure. 1.2. The buy rate for WrestleMania 13 was 770,000.
Damn.
You lost 500,000 pay-per-view buys in a year. Okay? For a card, to me, that was much better than the previous year. Right?
Oh, yeah. This WrestleMania. I'd say this WrestleMania, like, as a show, probably is way better than
now,
WrestleMania.
Let's go to the first match. Free-for-all. Flash Funk versus Billy Gunn. Okay? Billy Gunn was jobbing out to Flash Funk. Flash Funk wasn't that guy back then. Okay? Flash Funk, remember WCW. WWE was in the thing with ECW and stuff like that. So Flash Funk.
On paper, that sounds like a good match. I mean, you got Too Cold against Billy Gunn. On paper, that would have been
right. Yeah. Uh-huh. That was Gaga. Then you got a 4-way elimination tag team match. Doug Furnace and Philip LaFawn versus the Godwins versus the Headbangers, which I know you probably one of your favorites, versus the new Blackjacks, Blackjack Bradshaw and Blackjack Wyndham. I'm sorry to tell you, I can't remember who won, but if it's anybody other than the new Blackjacks, that was a travesty of justice.
I'm pretty sure the Headbangers won that
match.
Yeah,
even though you're probably looking for the Headbangers.
Yeah, it's like I'm almost positive they won that.
Yeah. And then after that, you had the Sultan in a WWF Intercontinental title match versus some guy, some jabroni named Rocky Maivia.
Yeah, what a trip. I saw I think I got one of those in wrestling history things like a couple weeks ago, and it was the Sultan's debut, and it was something like that. I'm just like, you know what? I'm like, here's this big Samoan dude, and they put that he was a prisoner of war, and he got his tongue cut out. And I was just like, you know what? That's a cool gimmick.
Now, here's one that's good for you. A singles match after that. Triple H with China versus Marlena. Now, this was after the fact that China had already ragdolling Marlena. Okay? Oh, yeah. But Goldust versus Triple H. I think that was a very good match.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's a pretty damn good match. I especially as far as Triple H's. This is near when he got with China, and he was kind of going out of the Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and he was kind of about to become Triple H. So this was kind of, I'd say this is kind of like one of the first matches where we saw glimpses.
The turning point. The turning point.
Yep.
The match after that, you had the World Tag Team title match. Mankind and Vader versus Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. If I'm right, Owen Hart and British Bulldog retain the titles. But to have Mankind and Vader. I love that too much.
Love that pairing, though.
Now, a match that they're talking about considering putting into the WWE Hall of Fame is next. A no-holds-barred match, special referee Ken Shamrock. Bret Hart versus Steve Austin.
The very first match they're ever going to induct into the Hall of Fame, which is honestly, I'm surprised they haven't done this sooner. Because I remember a couple years ago when they started doing, I don't know, they haven't done it in a couple years actually, but they started doing like this Hall of Fame like legacy wing where they started inducting like classic wrestlers from back in like the 40s and the 50s like that. And I'm surprised they haven't inducted matches sooner. But as far as first matches to induct, I'd say this is a pretty good start.
Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage, I would have said would have been my top.
I would have probably done that first. Actually.
Yeah, to me, I don't care who you are. To watch Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage from WrestleMania 3, I think that tops just about any WrestleMania match you could watch. Just for the simple fact of how the story played out. It was just sad that Ricky's run didn't last as long. But to induct a match, if you're going to induct any match from WrestleMania first, Ricky and Savage first, Austin and Brett second. I don't think you could have any problem. Rowdy Piper and Goldust to be the third. Once again, I don't think you'd have a problem.
One that I would think that they're going to do. I think honestly they're probably going to do this one second, knowing how WWE operates.
Oh, we're gonna mention one. If you're thinking what I'm thinking, I think we're gonna mention it in a minute.
No. It's WrestleMania 25, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker.
Okay.
I just have a feeling, knowing how WWE operates, they're going to induct.
We'll be talking about that next week. Okay. Yeah. Now, the one significant about the Bret Hart Steve Austin, what it did for the business.
Yep.
If anybody can't deny that fact of this was a double switch, pulled off perfectly, and the wrestlers didn't pull it off, the fans pulled it off.
And there's never been a better one since. I mean, they've tried.
Because without the fans pulling off this double switch, this doesn't happen.
Yep.
They tried to do it when Austin screwed somebody at WrestleMania. We'll be talking about it soon. When he aligned with Vince McMahon, it didn't go so well. This one had the elements of just working. Everything about it worked. And I don't know if you could have had two better guys to make it work.
Yep.
They were willing to do business with each other, and it just worked. And then with that being said, though, then you followed up with a six-man tag team Chicago street fight. Ahmed Johnson and the Legion of Doom versus the Nation of Domination, Crush, Farouk, and Savio Vega with Clarence Mason, D'Lo Brown, JC Ice, and Wolfie D. What
greatest match in WrestleMania? And the Road Warriors. What the fuck?
All I gotta say is Ahmed Johnson in the Legion of Doom versus the Nation of Domination. We are the nation. Okay. To go on from that, then we get to Psycho Sid versus The Undertaker, which once again kept the streak on because Undertaker beat Psycho Sid. Now, I told you 770,000 buys for WrestleMania 13, okay? Now, WrestleMania 14, Boston, Massachusetts. I was sitting in section 316. 19,028 of us up in the building. 27 years ago yesterday, okay? 770,000 buys the previous WrestleMania 13. 2.34 million a year later. Yep. And the first match, you have a 15 tag team battle royal. Okay? Now I'm going to give you some names here. Bradshaw and Chains versus Flash Funk and Steve Blackman versus the Godwins versus the Headbangers versus the Legion of Doom with Sonny versus the Quebecers versus the Rock and Roll Express versus Too Much, Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor versus the Disciples of Apocalypse, 8 Ball and Skull versus the Midnight Express, Bodacious Bard and Bombastic Bob versus the Truth Commission, my God, versus Las Boricuas versus Las Boricuas 2. Jesus Castillo and Jose Estrada. The other one was Miguel Perez and Savio Vega. Then versus the Nation of Domination, D'Lo Brown and Miyazaki.
Where's Dan at when you need him?
Oh, yeah. And then another Nation of Domination, Farouk and Kama Mustafa.
Well, I can name about 2 of those tag teams.
Right.
This was LOD 2000, mind you.
Oh,
this
my God.
This is with the stupid helmets and whatever.
No, remember, this is in 1998, so it's not 2000 yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you go from that 15-man battle royal to the light heavyweight match, Taka Michinoku versus Aguila. That was not a very good match. I was in the building for this. The match after that, the European title match, Triple H with China versus Owen Hart. That was an actual very good match.
Yep, I'd say it's a pretty damn good match. I missed the European Championship for starters. Owen kind of goes without saying. Owen is probably one of the best of all time, and of course during this time, you could tell he definitely carried Triple H through a little bit of this match. But I have nothing really more to say to it than that. But yeah good match.
And then you had a mixed tag team match after that. Mark Merrow and Sable versus Luna and the artist formerly known as Goldust, Dustin
or
Rhodes.
Mark Merrow.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this right now. Do you call him Mark Merrow, or do you say Sable hopped on an opportunity that she couldn't because she saw he was going nowhere? So she's like,
good for Sable.
Then after that, you had the Intercontinental title match with The Rock, with D'Lo Brown and Kama Mustafa and Mark Henry versus Ken Shamrock. If I'm right, Ken Shamrock won the title.
Yeah, another great match, actually. This match
Yeah.
yeah, this match actually kind of rules. It's unfortunate. I really hope because there's rumors that Shamrock's going into the Hall of Fame this year, so I'm really hoping that he's the last announcement because that'd be sweet.
The New Age Outlaws versus Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. Gee, I'll tell you this. That was a battle all over the building. The crowd was hot.
Yeah.
Right?
I was about to ask you. I was like, that was probably cool as fuck to see in the arena.
Yes. And then you had Kane versus The Undertaker. I will say this. By working at that company, but being in the building for this Taker entrance, the coolest Undertaker entrance I ever saw.
That was the best. That's the best Undertaker theme of all time, too. Like where it's the guitar, the do 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 do.
And then of course we got to the main event, and in the main event, you had Iron Mike Tyson, you had Shawn Michaels with Chyna and Triple H, and then you had Steve Austin take the title, which we all know kicked off the whole Attitude Era. And the only problem with this whole thing was this. Because of how Shawn was already injured, it didn't come across the match as good as it should have.
Yeah.
Until Tyson punched Shawn, which was after the bell.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I would say he's probably, Tyson is probably one of the reasons why this pay-per-view sold as well as it did.
Absolutely. Now, the thing about this is 3 days before this match, they actually had a thing at Boston City Hall. Where me and a buddy of mine, we go down, they did a thing out in public, City Hall. 15,000 people showed up to watch them do a skip out in a public place. Like I said, it was all to see Mike Tyson, and they did it right there. Stone Cold comes out and everything like that. So they did a great job selling it. But to go from that to the next one, WrestleMania 15. Philadelphia. 20,000. Now, I told you the buy rate for WrestleMania 14 was 2.34 for Shawn versus Austin. The buy rate for The Rock versus Austin was 2.32. It went down about 20,000.
Yep.
So let's go to the matches now. You got the hardcore champion triple threat match. Billy Gunn, Hardcore Holly, and Al Snow. Okay. Ooh, that's going to put asses in the seats.
Yeah, especially Al Snow. You know, what does
Yeah.
everybody want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get to Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart versus D'Lo Brown and Test. My God. Test.
That is a name I have not heard in quite a while. Now, unfortunate what happened to Test. I'd have to say he died very young. I don't think he was 40 yet. I think he was like 32 or something. But yeah.
Now I'm glad you bring it up because if you think about this WrestleMania 15 is only 2 months before Owen died.
Yeah. No, this is last WrestleMania for Owen Hart. Jeff and Owen as a tag team, not bad. I don't think they were bad as a tag team.
No.
This match, I'd say it's okay for what it is. I just think it's a little unfortunate. You know, every time I see a Test match, it is a little unfortunate. So I'm just like, it sucks.
Yeah. Here comes the match that absolutely changed somebody's life, not for the good.
Oh, yep.
The special referee is Vinny Pazienza.
Yep.
Bart Gunn versus Butterbean. Do we need to talk any more about how Bart Gunn got absolutely destroyed and he never did anything again?
And the sad thing is like they were told to do it like a shoot for the Brawl for All. And I have to say this. I'm a Brawl for All defender. I think the Brawl for All, like as a viewer when you're watching, I think it was entertaining. You know, that's the one thing I'll ever give Vince Russo credit for. But they literally had Bart Gunn because the whole pit, it's pretty known, the whole thing was set for Dr. Death.
Yep.
And it turned out the way it did. And they literally sent Butterbean out there to kill this man. And it's like,
They thought he was actually going to do better, but 30 seconds later, he was knocked out cold.
Yeah.
So after that, though, we got to the winner gets to referee the main event in the Mankind versus Paul Wright match. From Wright, Mankind won, and he got the referee the main event. You go to the Intercontinental Title 4-way elimination match, which you had the Road Dogg versus Ken Shamrock versus Val Venus versus Goldust, with Ryan Shamrock and the Blue Meanie.
I always forget, Blue Meanie was in WWE for like a cup of coffee there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know what to say about this.
What about Ryan Shamrock?
Yeah. That's something.
So think about
Frank Shamrock ever a part of it too? It's like I think there's Frank Shamrock too.
Oh no. Ken Shamrock, Val Venus, and Goldust. Think about those names.
Yep.
Road Dogg, Ken Shamrock, Val Venus, Goldust. 3 out of those 4 are Hall of Famers.
Yep. Val Venus for sure is up there.
Yeah. Then you had a singles match, Kane versus Triple H. Yeah.
You got two safe workers in there, I'll give you that.
Then you had a women's world title match. Hold on one second, Jacob.
No,
I might have something going on. Hold on one second here.
No, you're good. I got the card pulled up.
All right, yeah. Oh no, sorry. I have a fire alarm talking. I have a fire alarm talking to me in my house. Then from that you go to the WWF Women's World Title match, Tori versus Sable.
I mean, I'd say when I think of great wrestling matches, I really just I think of Tori versus Sable. I think of any Jinder Mahal match. No, I mean what can be said about this match?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then you go to the European match. Shane McMahon with Test versus X-Pac. Is this the one where he dove off?
No, I think he wrestled Test in that match. I think.
Okay.
I think that probably.
I think
this was the
Blackman. Oh no, it was. That's the one.
No, it was Steve Blackman. It was Steve Blackman that he wrestled with.
No, I thought it was on a Big Show where he dove off the Titantron.
Yeah, I think Blackman threw him off. Blackman's the one who threw him off, and then he dove onto Big Show, I think. Shane McMahon's a fucking wild man.
Oh, yes. Then you had a Hell in a Cell match. The Big Boss Man versus The Undertaker. We obviously know how that landed. Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Oh, God. This match.
And then we go to the World Heavyweight title, no disqualification match, special referee Mankind. The Rock versus Steve Austin. We all know how that ended up.
Yep, great match.
Austin taking back the title.
Yep, and this is the match where he just got divorced and he didn't have his vest, so he came out with a t-shirt.
So, it's funny because during all these then we get to WrestleMania 20. Now, to WrestleMania 2000, again, back in Anaheim. Mind you, only 4 years earlier they were in Anaheim. Now, the one in Anaheim 4 years earlier did a 1.2 million buy. Now we're at the 2.08 million. Okay? So they almost doubled their attendance. Tag team match. Bull Buchanan and the Big Boss Man versus D'Lo and the Godfather with Ice-T. Any match, I'm sorry, but any match to me that involves Ice-T, that's...
Yeah, the worst part of what show was he on? Fucking Criminal Minds or something?
SVU.
Yeah, SVU. Yeah, the worst part about that show.
No, I love his commercial where they say, Iced tea, no lemonade. Iced tea, no lemonade.
So stupid.
Then you had a WWF Hardcore title, 15-minute time limit battle royal. Crash Holly versus Hardcore Holly versus Bradshaw versus Marsh versus Taz versus Taka Michinoku versus Farouk versus Joey Abs versus Funaki versus Thrasher versus Viscera versus Pete Gas and Rodney. There's some names for you. Pete
Gas
just
threw Viscera in that one, huh?
Oh, yeah. Then you go to a tag team match. TNA versus Head Cheese, Hal Snow, and Steve Blackman. Albert and Tess versus Oh, my God. On some of these things, like, wait a minute, what the heck were you doing? Then you get the World Tag Team title three-way ladder match, okay? The Dudley Boys versus Christian and Edge versus the Hardy Boys. We talked about WrestleMania matches should be in the Hall of Fame. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, this really match is the whole standard for any type of ladder match that came after this, because like literally, and there's nothing really to be said more about this match because this match just rules. This isn't the one where he speared Edge. This is the one where he speared him. This is the one where Edge won the titles, right?
You remember now? Oh yeah,
because that was the year afterwards, I think.
Oh yeah. That, like I said, if there was a match that should be in the Hall of Fame, that's the match that should be in the Hall of Fame. Yep. Then you get a cat fight with special referee Val Venus, Terry with the Fabulous Moolah versus the Cat with Mae Young. Ooh.
The cat.
Screaming awesome. To me, as they're screaming, I need to watch this. Yeah, okay. Then you have a 6-man tag, China and Too Cool, Grandmaster Sexay and Scotty 2 Hotty versus the Radicals. Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and Perry Saturn.
Jesus, you're going to burn down your own house.
Well,
I was going to say something about the ladder match.
Yep.
It's a double-edged sword because I was literally just thinking about this the other day and how far AEW has gone as far as the violence and, the whole thing with Spike and Moxley's back and, the syringe in Hangman or in Swerve's mouth, all the violence they've gotten to, literally setting people on fire. It was a match like this that was the precursor to all this stuff. And again, there's no, there's going to be a limit unless you're killing somebody in the ring. At some point, they got to draw it back. You got to bring that violence back. Violence can be artistic if done properly, but when you're literally putting people's lives on the line and you're turning professional wrestlers, athletes into stuntmen, stunts go wrong. You don't believe me? Ask one fucking Brandon Lee. I'm, as much as I hate to say it, even Rob Van Dam came out and said that wasn't for him. Right? It's okay.
Crazy to me when I saw that. I was like, wow.
But that's the thing. You can get older and you can say this because people's opinions change, man. It's sometimes the violence is too much. And one thing I'll give WWE, and I can't believe, after it wouldn't have been me 5 years ago, but WWE's done a really good job of giving emphasis to moves like a pile driver, like a DDT, and they're going back and they're rewriting the way wrestling should be, where AEW is making the mistake because you have a guy who went to a couple ECW shows and thinks he knows wrestling.
Well, here's one for you. Did you hear what Rob Van Dam came out and said this week about the thing that happened?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
With Drew Mac. I'm not Drew. With John Moxley.
Yep.
You need to get your freaking bat of nails stuck in your back to sell something. What's wrong with you?
He is a 100%. I don't know what is it. What's it called? A masochist, where like you like to get pain or something like that. It has to be some type of kink or some bullshit, because like it's not normal for John Moxley to be doing this shit. And the fact is, because I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but the spot, like when Wheeler Yuta had to like literally yank on the spikes to get it out of the stupidest spot ever. And I don't know, man. It's just
it's gone too far. It really has gotten to a point where, I like Moxley as a wrestler. I think that he has wonderful ideas for the old school style of wrestling. But I think the CZW is too inflicting it. What's up, J-Man? What's with his brain? Like, I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. Like, again, I would have said a syringe through a man's fucking cheek is a little too far, but then they go and set someone on fire. So I don't know. AEW is definitely lost the plot for me. I'm more disgusted than entertained.
Well, and that's their world champion,
Well, no, it's both sides though, Jacob. I mean, the Hollywood ending, as much as I love Toni Storm and what's the work she's been doing, there's no need for them to be gushing blood all over the place.
Yeah. It's just like you said, the ladder match in particular, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and speaking of which, Hardys and Dudleys, they're trying to get a match going right now, which is pretty funny. But this match pretty much was the catalyst to everything that came afterwards, and seeing the way it's kind of developed into the way it has in AEW is it's really weird, especially because of like the stuff I just said. But like Dan was saying, WWE putting emphasis on bringing the pile driver back. Even like Randy Orton's promo this past Friday night, he cut a great promo, going off and saying hitting me with a move that's been banned for 15 years or whatever he said. But like he was really selling the fact, and it's just like that's lost at least nowadays. But yeah.
Okay, so after we talk about that, then we go to the way this is put on. I'm hoping it's right. It was a WWE Intercontinental title match and a WWF European title triple threat. Hold on, I'm just making sure. But it featured Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, and Chris Jericho. Okay, where Kurt Angle was the champion twice. I think they just might have made a mistake.
Yeah,
he was no. That was the time when Kurt Angle was the belt collector.
Yeah,
he was basically had a European title. He had the Intercontinental title at the same time.
So he defended against.
They basically had to have him lose both belts.
Yeah.
Basically, the situation.
So, Benoit and Jericho. Okay, I guess in the match said it was back to back.
Yep.
I don't remember the match. I am talking 25 years ago, so I'm sorry if my memory.
Was Alzheimer's just finally kicking in?
But
from what I remember, the Benoit and Angle match was great, and then the Jericho, Angle match was all right, from what I remember.
The match that I remember the most is the Royal Rumble where Kurt Angle fought Benoit. That match was insane. That match was insane. Then we go from those two matches to the tag team match where you had Kane and Rikishi versus D-Generation X, Road Dogg and X-Pac with Tori. Yeah, that's
I thought that guy got his tongue cut out.
Yeah,
he got his tongue cut out, and he miraculously grew it back. And
Then the main event of WrestleMania was World Heavyweight Title Fatal 4-Way Elimination Match, where you had this was the corners of the McMahons.
A McMahon in every corner.
Yes, Triple H with Stephanie, Mick Foley with Linda, The Big Show with Shane, and The Rock with Vince.
Big Show came out on top, I think.
Who came out on top on that one?
The Big Show came out on top on that one, didn't he?
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be a feel-good moment because remember, his dad had just passed away. His real live dad.
Now, so like I said, so WrestleMania 16.
No. His dad had passed away way before him, but they had the ceremony. They did an actual thing in WWE where they were celebrating his dad.
Yeah, and then he rode away on the coffin.
Yeah, Big Boss Man with the Blues Brothers thing.
We go from WrestleMania 16 in Arrowhead Pond to WrestleMania 17 in the great state of where? In the Reliant Astrodome in Houston, Texas. 67,925 people.
Actually, hold on, time out. If she's still here right now, I know somebody who was actually there. Hello?
X7.
Yes, I was.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So the buy rate for this was 2.18 million. Okay.
I was pissing on my nuts during this time because this was 2001, so I had just been born.
Now, the funny part about this is the commentary, right? Was Jim Ross, Paul Heyman, Gene Okerlund, and Bobby Heenan. So Bobby Heenan had come back from WCW. To start the show off, you had the Intercontinental title match, Chris Jericho versus William Regal. Was this William Regal as the common man?
No, God, no. This is well after.
Okay. And on paper, William Regal should have won this match.
Yep, that guy. You could probably say that about half of like William Regal's career. Like,
Yeah, but William Regal had ups and downs. I mean, great wrestler, but personal demons are what held him back.
Yep.
Yep.
And then you had a 6-man tag match. Taz and the APA with Jacqueline versus the Right to Censor, Bo Buchanan, the Godfather, the Goodfather, and Val Venus with Steven Richards. Stevie Richards.
Horrible gimmick. But they did it to mock the network on SmackDown. I get it.
I have to say though, Taz and the APA though, that could have been something. I like that pairing on paper.
I'll always like Taz. Too small. I'm sorry. Just to me, it's always going to be. He was never to me intimidating. I mean, in ECW, absolutely, he did his job, but everywhere else, he was never booked to be that sawed-off monster.
Yeah, once they brought him in and put him in that like boiler suit, it was kind of the end,
Yeah.
The next match is a match after Dan's own heart. We had the Big Show versus Kane in a hardcore title match versus Raven, who was the champion.
One of the most underrated matches of all time as far as Raven's career. Shut your face. It was really good.
So
I mean, yeah, you can. Raven is the shit. I love Raven, so you know.
Now, was this right? This was right after WWE bought out ECW, correct?
Well, I mean, and I've talked to Raven before about it, and basically they had an axe to grind. They didn't like Raven. They didn't like Scott Levy, and they showed it.
This is right before they turned Sunday Night Heat into a Raven Night Heat, where he was wrestling on that show all the time.
Yep, and it was the Seven Deadly Sins program, which would have been great on actual real television.
Oh man, yeah.
And then we had the start of somebody's distinguished career. We had Test versus Eddie Guerrero for the European title.
The start? Those guys have been wrestling for years.
No, I'm saying I just said in his WWE career.
Fair.
Right, he had just come back from breaking his arm.
Yep.
And then, of course, you had a singles match of Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit, which, like I said, that's one of those matches you could watch all the time.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah, you could definitely watch those all the time. Then you had a WWF Women's World Title match. Ivory versus China.
Ivory was so underrated.
This went more than 2 minutes.
Yep. And then we had the special referee Mick Foley street fight. Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Where Stephanie was in Vince's corner.
I have to say this, compared to when Vince fought Stephanie, I mean, he really pulled his punches here with Shane. Just saying.
Oh, that match was brutal.
Yeah. No, I know, but
punched her right in the tit.
Then we go to the World Tag Team title match. Tables, ladders, and chairs, three-way match. The Dudley Boys, Christian and Edge, the Hardy Boys.
And to be fair, to let everybody know, that is why she was there. She went to Houston just to see the Hardy Boys.
Yeah,
this was
and you still had a chance then. Now, I will say, having that match 2 years in a row, I could have watched that a third year in a row.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's just the way that match was. But then we get to, I think, one of the funnest WrestleMania matches of all time. The Gimmick Battle Royal, where you had Bushwhacker Luke versus Earthquake versus Duke the Dumpster Drozy versus the Gobbledygooker versus the Goon versus the One-Man Gang versus
And the only person that mattered, the Iron Sheik.
Versus Sergeant Slaughter versus Doink the Clown versus Michael Hayes versus James E. Cornette versus the Iron Sheik versus Kimchi versus Tugboat versus the Bushwhacker Butch versus Repo Man versus Nikolai Volkov versus Hillbilly Jim, and then versus Brother Love. Now, he just said the Iron Sheik.
Repo Man.
Repo Man.
Repo Man.
Yeah, I knew you changed it once I said Repo Man. Repo Man.
You know, the last time Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon did commentary together, so it's historical for a lot of reasons. I think that they did this more than once, right? Because I feel like they did this on a Raw too one time, like they did a Gimmick Battle Royal or something like that. I don't know, but this one was just great. Iron Sheik won it. Goes without saying. Good.
Young stud they had in their Repo Man should have definitely gone over.
Here's the funny part about this. The amount of time it took me to say that didn't even come close to the amount of time it took Iron Sheik to walk to that ring.
Oh yeah, they didn't even have the consideration to get one of those carts, that they got.
No.
They would have had to use a golf cart or a forklift to bring his fat ass out at that point. Love you, Sheik. Love you, Sheiky baby.
Going down there.
Rest in peace, Sheiky baby. Then we had Triple H first time versus The Undertaker.
That was good. The build for that.
Yep.
I remember I'm the dead man. Try me. I'll make you famous. And he goes, I'm already famous. I'm famous for crippling people. Oh, that promo.
And then, of course, we had the no disqualification match. The Rock versus Steve Austin. Let
me ask you about the booking for all this, because literally.
Promo or did D'Lo Brown?
Didn't Vince come out in this match? This is where.
Yes. Let me ask you about the booking of this, though, because literally at No Way Out, the pay-per-view before, Triple H had just got through beating Austin in a 3 stages of hell match, and yet he's facing off for the world title.
Well, and I told you, you had 2.18 million buys. In like this the year before, without Austin, you had 2.08 million buys. So you had about 100,000 more million buys, 100,000 more buys just because of Austin being in the main event, which now turns us into WrestleMania 18. We're back in Toronto. 68,237. Okay. 1.6 million. Now think about that. They lost. So the year before, you're at 2.18. Now you're down to 1.6. This would be the coming back of everybody from WCW.
Well, and the semi-main event was the master of real American beer, Hulk Hogan.
Okay. So you get the first match of the night. You get the WWE Intercontinental title match with William Regal versus
Rob Van Dam.
The only problem I have with that whole match is Regal couldn't keep up with Van Dam.
Not many could, though, back then.
Right. Now, the match after that was a European title match. You had DDP versus Christian.
That's not a bad thing.
Nope.
That's a good thing.
Yep. But
one of the best Christian theme songs of all time.
Oh.
Yes.
And then the gimmick to me after this is the hardcore title match. You had Goldust versus a guy who's been making his living on the internet lately, a guy who was in WWE for all of a minute, Maven.
Do 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 do
Do,
do.
do, 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 do.
He got lucky. He won Tough Enough 1. And they
I
made
love
it. And he
Let's
made
be fair. Those eyebrows one tough enough one.
Yeah.
what the unibrow?
He has the best accent of any country person I've ever heard. Like I can't even do an impression of it. Like it's so good. I was once on WWE television. Like it's just he starts off his videos all the same every single time.
Here's one. Then you had Kane versus Kurt Angle.
That was a very interesting pairing. But yeah,
Then you had a no DQ match. The Undertaker versus Woo, the Nature Boy.
that was such a great build to that. And then Arn Anderson's using that to hit him with a AA spine buster. I mean, everything about that match was excellent.
Probably
And it
one
was
of my favorite Taker matches at Mania, I'd have to say.
Oh, and it was all based on the fact. Well, and Rick talks about it in interviews how his confidence was gone, and Taker believed in him, and they did an amazing job.
Well, yeah, they wanted him to wrestle Rob Van Dam that year, so to be fair, that would have been a cool match. WrestleMania.
In a match that I can't believe I can say I don't remember a lot to it, but at the time I think I looked forward to it was Booker T versus Edge.
The Booker Man, sucker.
Okay, now mind you, I think Edge got this because of Canada, so he had the Canadian crown on his side.
Who the fuck is Edge? I thought he was Cope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now the match after that was an abomination because I don't think either guy wanted to be in this match. Scott Hall versus Steve Austin. I don't think either guy wanted to be in it.
Best stunner cell of all time, though, I'd have to say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I just don't think.
But the thing about that match was Austin wasn't going to do business with Hogan.
Right.
Because Hogan was one of the Hogan and him had beef. Let's call it what it is. They may not say it loud proudly, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Then you had the World Tag Team title, the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match. Billy and Chucky versus the APA versus the Dudley Boys versus the Hardy.
You look so good to me.
The what? Oh my God.
Best wedding in the history of wrestling.
Billy versus Billy and Chucky's wedding?
Yep.
But Rico, we're not gay.
And then you had the match that unfortunately stole the rest of the show from anybody after it. The singles match of The Rock versus Hulk Hogan.
Horrible match. I mean, technically,
that's all I gotta say. Turn the sound off.
Turn the sound off and watch it. Horrible. It was the fans that made that match.
Now, would you guys both agree that when fans make a match, good, bad, or indifferent, the match quality itself?
Well,
yes.
The fans will make a match depending on how the fans.
Well, I say Uso overseas right now.
I'm going to say is the fans have to hit their cue on time, and I would say in this match the fans hit their cue every time in this.
They were saying this is awesome, and they were staring at each other.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you got the same thing now with Jey Uso in the mix now. If you just turn the sound off and watch his matches, they're pretty much all the same.
But here's the thing, Jacob. This was true raw emotion of anybody who's ever liked The Rock.
The build for this match was great. The semi-trucking to the ambulance, everything that happened, it was great.
Yep. And I'm saying is the problem was that took away from the two other matches. In the other, you had the women's world title match, which has Jazz versus Trish Stratus versus Lita. I don't think Jazz needed to be there, even though she was the champion. But Trish, I think that was Trish's retirement match because of it being in Canada.
No, it wasn't her retirement match with Lita.
Okay. Trish stayed in the company, I think, till like 2006 or something.
All right. And then you had Jericho with Stephanie versus Triple H.
Which again, it was a great match, but Triple H ends up winning the belt that night, but losing it shortly after to Hogan. So it's not really.
Well, my question to you is: should they have taken and put Hogan versus The Rock last?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
They said that.
We're going on last. We're going on last.
Then you go to WrestleMania 19, which is in Seattle, Washington, Safeco Field, 54,000. The buy rate. Now I told you the buy rate for WrestleMania 18 was 1.6. WrestleMania 19 was 1.4. So they actually went backwards again. Okay. And that would have been 22 years ago today, WrestleMania 19. And let's talk off with the first match, cruiserweight match. Matt Hardy version 1.0 with Shannon Moore versus some guy named Rey Mysterio.
Great. That was a great version of Matt. That was a great gimmick for Matt.
Yep.
Shannon Moore was always just a side piece, but you can't. Back then, you couldn't have a bad match with Ray.
Nope.
Was this where he wore the like weird Daredevil outfit?
I can't remember myself.
I don't know. I don't know. I remember Ray's matches sometimes by the outfits he wore at them. But I think this might have been the Daredevil one. But
yeah, that's true.
Yep. Good
match
though.
They got the F out for this one.
Yep.
Now
I started getting the F out after this one, but keep going.
Now you had a 2-on-1 handicap match. The A-Train and the Big Show versus the Undertaker.
And it was supposed to be Nathan Jones.
Nathan Jones was so bad that they didn't want him to be with Undertaker, Big Show, and A-Train, who have never hurt anyone in the history of any time they've ever worked ever.
Well, that's the thing, though. A-Train had so much hair in his body, he was a human buffer. He would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to say a name right now for the next match that I believe deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Jazz versus Trish Stratus versus Victoria.
Oh, God. We've been pushing that for years.
She deserves to be there. Oh,
Ooh,
she
Jazz?
deserves to be there.
Yeah, I love Jazz.
No,
yeah, Jazz is great. We love Jazz. Jazz is amazing.
I'm talking about Victoria.
Victoria was always great, especially during her whole weird, crazy gimmick. I always loved Victoria.
Then I know something true and dear to Dan's heart. The tag team triple threat, which Team Angle, which is Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, versus Chris Benoit and Rhino.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Chavo and Eddie.
It's crazy. Just fell off the face of the earth.
Who did?
Oh, I don't know. Some guy.
I love Team Angle. They had great chemistry. Charlie Haas fell off the fucking bricks when he got in drugs.
Yep.
Eddie Guerrero will always be one of the greats. You can't deny his contributions to wrestling.
Shelton Benjamin, though, still being around. That's the.
Well, he was a fucking natural athlete. It's a travesty. He's never had a world title run.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the only one really still active. I mean, Rhino still wrestles, but not that much.
And then think about it like this: the match after that, Chris Jericho versus Shawn Michaels.
Oh my God, one of the top WrestleMania matches of all time.
That's probably the best match of Jericho's career, if I'm being honest.
Up to that point, yes, but I still say the Jericho Michaels match where he got his tooth knocked out. Well, that was pretty damn good too.
I was about to say the latter match is probably better though.
So then you go to a match, right? You got the World Heavyweight Title match. Triple H with Ric Flair in his corner. So I guess Evolution must have started now.
It was starting, yeah.
Versus Booker T.
That was by far one of the worst endings ever, in the sense that you literally, you basically were a racist to this man for the entirety of the promo when Ric Flair saying, people like you don't deserve to have the world title.
WCW, come on.
Now, my question to you is this. The next three matches in this order, okay? The next match after that match, you had the street fight. Vince McMahon versus Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Wait, are we glossing over how Triple H literally he hits the pedigree and then it takes him 2 minutes to pin Booker T? Or we just gloss over that?
The Hulk Hogan versus Vince McMahon match had to happen. What they don't talk about is the people who came down and interfered in it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Piper come down? I thought Roddy Piper came down in that match and interfered.
That's what I meant, Jordan. Sorry, I meant Triple H said that.
Huh? Didn't Piper come down and interfere in this? Vince McMahon?
I don't know. I didn't. Like I said, I'll be honest. I didn't care too much at this point in time in wrestling. I was blech.
All right, because then you had a single match.
I just remember Vince's evil face in that match, where he's bleeding and he has that smile on his face. That's the only thing I remember about this match.
You had a singles match. You had Steve Austin versus The Rock. I think The Rock went over in this one.
He did. It was Austin's last match. It was very depressing.
Yep.
Excellent match. When you put those two together, you're always going to get a great match.
Mm-hmm.
And but sad.
You had for the WWF Heavyweight Title, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar.
Brock almost broke his
Dude, he
fucking
broke
neck.
his freaking neck.
Had Brock had pulled that off, though, it would have been one of the coolest spots ever.
If Angle was closer, he might have pulled it off, but he was halfway across the ring.
Now,
Yeah.
the last one we're going to talk about, if I'm right, for this week, is the last arena show they did for WrestleMania, except for COVID,
As I like to call it, WrestleMania redacted.
where it all begins again. Okay?
Madison Square Garden.
Yes. So you had 1.4 million buys for 19. You had 1.63 million buys for 20. Capacity 20,000 people. Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole, and Taz on commentary. Okay. It starts up the very first match.
But before you say anything, Gerard, I just want to put this out there. This is one of the best WrestleManias of all time.
It was actually very good. It was
Yeah,
very good.
This is one of my favorite. This is probably one of the best WrestleManias of all time.
Well, let's go to the first match then. The Big Slow versus
Against this up and coming guy who just from West Newbury, Massachusetts, getting ready to start his face run, carried a chain around his hand. You couldn't see him though. I mean, I was trying. It was like the Big Show was wrestling an Invisible Man. John Cena.
So we all know what WrestleMania did for John Cena. Okay. My question to you is this: Did the Big Show ever live up?
And you're wrong, J-Man. It was WrestleMania 22. Sorry, I couldn't let that slide.
The Big Show, did the Big Show ever live up to the hype that he should have? Was he ever that guy?
I think around that time, see, J-Man knew. I think during that time, if they were ever really going to push him like as a big, like serious spot, like that was probably the time to do it around that like 05, 06 era. Or I think this is 04. So yeah, around this time was probably the best time for the Big Show. But this was also when he was at his heaviest too.
Because then, like I say, that John Cena, thing. So let's think about 21 years ago. John Cena is wrestling the Big Show at WrestleMania. One of those no longer wrestles.
Yep.
The other one no longer wrestles except for when he needs to because he's going on a farewell tour.
How about you shut your face when you talk about John Cena that way? That's the ball spot that made the business.
Well, I will say this. And I think you guys can both agree for 10 years minimum, John Cena was the business.
Not that we wanted him to be the business. I'm sorry. You can cheer John Cena all you want. I think he's doing his best work right now. But let's not forget, John Cena, fuckboy Buckethead at the time, was doing fucking horrible numbers. People hated his guts. He was a piece of shit. Nobody wanted John Cena.
Overtake him, though? That was the only problem. Who could overtake him?
Well, they never gave anybody a chance, Gerard. Like they couldn't. They would never give anybody the opportunity. Case in point, we'll talk about it next week.
Right.
WrestleMania 30.
Yep.
The new face of fear, who had all the credentials to be the man. And they pissed it all away.
Well,
how do you feel about that, Vince? Vince, another guy you fucking buried.
We'll talk about that.
We were talking about double turns with WrestleMania 13. I was saying at that time they really could have pulled off a great double turn with Cena and Bray, but
Absolutely.
Let's go to the next one. You had a World Tag Team Title 4-way match: Booker T and Rob Van Dam versus Garrison Cade and Mark Jindrak versus the Dudley Boys versus La Resistance.
I love La Resistance.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it first because I love La Resistance. Such an underrated tag team.
Yeah, Renee Dupree had 50.
How much does Rob Conway remind you of LA Knight?
Hey, just look at me. Dun,
Yes.
dun.
And then you go to a singles match: Chris Jericho versus Christian. That was a hell of a match.
It was. And the swerve at the end when Trish Stratus came out and just fucking pie-faced the shit out of Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks that Jericho hates that match, too. He's like, yeah, it's just that match wasn't really, I don't care for it. It's like, no, that match fucking rules.
Sit your ass down, Nueve.
3-on-2 handicap match. The Rock and Saw Connection.
Look, I'm glad The Rock came back to help out Mick, and it was a very touching moment. but that match was surrounded. It was all about Randy.
Yep.
It was about Randy becoming the Legend Killer.
Well, and just The Rock at that time, like this is when he lost like all of his muscle mass. So like,
yeah.
When he was Mustache Rock or he was Goatee Rock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he looks so weird in this match.
We go to the Playboy Evening Gown Tag Team match, which I think was the main event of the match of the night, because you had Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler versus Sable and Tori Wilson, which I'm sorry to say, guys, I could go back and rewatch that match just for the pure entertainment of it. I thought it was one of the greatest Razzie moments in WrestleMania history.
I mean,
it was a WrestleMania Razzie moment.
That was horrible.
And then you get to the cruiserweight open match. Okay, Chavo Guerrero versus Tajiri versus Nunzio, Akio versus Rey Mysterio versus Jamie Noble versus Billy Kidman, Kung Fu Naki, Shannon Moore, and Ultimo Dragon.
The fact, the disrespect to Ultimo Dragon during this time really should be studied, but because he was only he was like eliminated from this match, right? Or like he was only in it for a minute or something like that.
I will say it like this, okay? When you read the names that I just read, take out Rey Mysterio, Chavo Guerrero. Other than that, take a look at all the other names. Does any other name stick out?
Yeah, Nunzio. Don't you ever talk ill of Nunzio.
Hey,
yeah,
wasn't
he
he a member of the FBI?
Yeah, the full-blooded Italians. Watch your tone. He just had a killer match with Tony D'Angelo.
Yep, we had a real Italian against a fake Italian.
You shut your whore mouth.
I'm trying to remember what song he used to come out with.
You shut your whore mouth, Jacob.
He used to come out with "Staying Alive," but not the one from the Bee Gees, the other one there. And then we get to the killer match of all time, which I would say, bar none, is the worst WrestleMania match in history. Special guest referee Steve Austin, Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg.
It was not the worst match. It was the worst match because of the crowd, because they knew they were leaving and they were all butthurt.
Probably one of the funniest matches in WrestleMania history, if I'm being honest, because you could just see how pissed Goldberg gets. Like,
yeah, bearded Goldberg was not happy Goldberg.
Well, the reason why I say one of the worst, because both guys were leaving the company. It got leaked out the night before. And the crowd reaction, like I told, for as much as the crowd did for Hogan and Rock, the crowd.
So let me ask you this: it goes back to being about kayfabe. Do you think there's too much information out there in wrestling now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, the build for this match.
But here's the thing, Dan.
The build for this match.
These guys leaked it out. If anybody else had leaked it out, I understand. But these guys leaked it out. Brock and Goldberg leaked it out.
Like,
you're not dealing with the sharpest tools in the shed in Goldberg.
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy who likes to headbutt lockers on the way in, gives himself a concussion, and almost kill one of the greatest men of all time in wrestling, The Undertaker.
Yep. And,
I mean, it's just one of those
final match
like,
too, so it's coming. But no, the funniest thing about this is like fucking the fact is that we got the greatest Brock Lesnar moment in ring ever when he got on the microphone to build up on this match. He got on his knees, literally, looks up to the sky, and it says, Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg. And it's the greatest fucking thing Brock Lesnar's ever done. But that's the only thing I remember from the build of this match. Yeah.
And you know, the sad part to that is this. Steve Austin, you know, looked like a fool because of what these other two guys had already announced.
Oh, yeah, you could see he's out there at one point.
He's like, why the frick am I here? And that's what that's basically what he's saying. Why am I out here? These two assholes have already said we're not staying around. We're gone after this match. Why am I here? Okay. But then that goes to a tag team fatal four-way match. Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty versus the APA versus the Basham Brothers versus the world's greatest tag team, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin.
Wrong team won.
I thought the APA won that match.
No, I think Too Cool won, I think.
Oh.
So yeah, I think world's greatest tag team should have won this match.
Yep.
And then you get to the women's title match versus hair match. Molly Holly versus Victoria.
God, she's so underrated, Molly Holly.
Oh, now she got her head shaved for this. I will give her credit.
Yes.
She got her head shaved. And then After the women's championship match, we go to probably once again one of the top 10 matches of all time: Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero for the heavyweight title.
Yeah, and both of them were unhappy with the match, and like Eddie went back and said, "Oh, you won," but what a match!
Yeah, no, the sad thing is like both of them talk about like how they're not like Eddie talked about it in interviews. They're like, yeah, that match just wasn't up to par. It's just like I couldn't fucking tell that match rocks.
And and they say sometimes wrestlers are their own worst critics.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, from all accounts,
if you go by what you think and everything you do in life, and not what your peers think and not what the crowd thinks, you're not going to have a very long career in the business. Listen to the crowd. If you listen to the crowd and they're giving you appreciation of what they just saw, go by that.
Yep.
Don't worry about the mistakes that could have happened in the match. Hey, the crowd, the people who pay us enjoyed it. That's all we need to care about. Don't dwell on it. They paid it. They liked it. That's it. And then we go to, once again, Kane versus Undertaker.
The build, the longevity of this rivalry, the fear for the first time, and that monster. This version of Kane was my favorite Kane. Yeah. And then when he comes out and he touches him, he goes, "You're not real. You're not real." He's like, it was a complete role reversal from the WrestleMania 13 match.
Yep.
It was so well done.
Yep.
You mean WrestleMania 14? Because
the
WrestleMania
only travesty is that they didn't push Kane more during this time.
Mm-hmm.
He fucking lit Shane McMahon's balls on fire with a fucking car battery.
Yep, didn't put the title on him.
And then to set off WrestleMania 20, one of the greatest heavyweight titles of all time, triple threat match: Triple H versus Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels.
Who?
Triple H versus Chris Benoit versus Shawn
Who's
Michaels.
That?
What happened? What did he do? Where'd he go?
He's hanging out with the Boogeyman.
Oh yeah, no, he's hanging out with some people. Yeah, this is probably one of the greatest matches of all time. Period, at least in my opinion. But again, I'm the age I am. Yeah, this like I said, this is
J-Man. There you go.
Yeah, this is the first WrestleMania that I actually remember watching. I was fucking 4 at the time, but it's the first memory of a WrestleMania that I have. And I remember the way everyone cheered when Chris Benoit won the title, and when Eddie came out and the confetti was rolling. I still remember seeing that on a big screen was the confetti spot with them two in the ring with the titles. And now it is forever tainted because of reasons. I don't know what those reasons are, though.
If you think about it like this, WrestleMania 20 was also the turning point of Jericho was the first. Unless Eddie Guerrero was already a title at the time, the first holder of the WWE title from all the guys that jumped over from WCW, right?
For the first World Heavyweight title.
Was he the first main eventer to win the title?
Oh yeah, I think
Benoit.
First one to beat Triple H, I think, right?
I'm asking, was Benoit the first one to be in the main event?
Well, Jericho had jumped way beforehand, and he had been the undisputed world. But I don't think that counts because WCW was still in business. But as far as the guys that came over, like the Radicals and all that, well, no, it would have been Jericho. It would have been Jericho because the Radicals came over during the same time.
Because I remember the first night the Radicals were on TV, Eddie Guerrero did a splash, breaks his arm.
Yeah. What made this significant was before Benoit left, they put the title on him, the world title on him when I think he beats Sid Vicious for it.
Yep.
And what made it important is that they were going to put the title back on him in WCW, and he said, "No, I'm going over there." And then he validated his move by winning this belt. And Eddie validated his career after going through the drug addiction and being fired and coming back. So these are two friends that have literally been to the bottom of the mountain and all the way to the top. They really encapsulated everything about their careers. That was one of the most pure moments you'll ever see in wrestling, is two best friends hugging each other because at the same time they are at the top of the mountain. And let's no bones about it. At that point in time, nothing was higher than WWE.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you this. as pertaining to Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn. Okay, the four radicals jumped ship. Okay, and it was and there was something that we had not seen ever, where 4 guys from the same company jumped ship to their competitor all at the same time.
Well, it was supposed to be 5, but they said "fuck you, Shane Douglas," and they
I love when New Jack tells the story of that. It's so fucking funny. He's like, yeah, they told him he was coming over, and then they said, fuck you.
When they do the 4, I'm saying when they do the 4 guys and they do that move, right? They get all that done. Dean Malenko, at the time, was the best of the 4 wrestlers.
I beg to differ. I think Dean is great. I think Dean in ring was very good, but I think when you talk about in ring performers, you couldn't go much better than Chris and Eddie.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Look. Say no more than go back to WCW. Eddie Guerrero, Halloween Havoc, Rey Mysterio.
Yep.
You're talking about another match that needs to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. They need to. I don't know if they would bring WCW into it, but why not?
Well, that's why I say when we sit and talk about WrestleMania and stuff like that, if you're going to talk about matches now. If they start inducting random matches, that's going to get old very fast because
El Torito versus Hornswoggle.
Hey, that match kicks ass, though. I'll tell you, that match is fucking awesome.
I don't mind them inducting matches that meant something to the business, and that's why I'm saying the Austin and Bret Hart match meant a lot to the business.
I don't know. I think Melina versus Alicia Fox, should be
I think Jinder Mahal hitting the Colossus on Randy Orton at SummerSlam was
about that. Not even when he won the title. Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton in the Punjabi prison.
If they go into segments for WWE history, do you do the Hulk Hogan segment in the ring at Bash at the Beach? Do you go into that? Or do you consider that the ending of a match? Do you consider a segment where he talks about this is the new world order of professional wrestling?
He doesn't say it. He says the new world organization, brother.
If they're doing segments, I would go with Shawn Michaels turning on Mari Jannetty.
Oh, right to the barbershop window? Absolutely.
Yeah, I would go for that first if they're doing moments.
Listen, I'll tell you this right now. That whole thing of Jake the Snake Roberts with Ultimate Warrior talking about, do you trust me? Do you trust? Oh, my God. That was, listen.
You're a sick man, Jake Roberts. Thank you very much.
Yep. I love Jake.
And of course, if you're going to do segments, I'm sorry, you have to take the 3-minute Dusty segment and just we're going to put his promo, the working man promo, into the Hall of Fame.
I want you to put your hand on that screen, my hand touching your hand.
And that's the thing. But where does that draw the line? Where do you draw the line and say we're going to stop putting this segment in? We can't put every segment in.
Well, do we not put then ring attendance in the Hall of Fame, like a guy who was getting spikes dropped on him, or a guy who got shit on by a bulldog, or a guy that happened to drive Miss Elizabeth at a high rate of speed to the arena after Randy Savage told him, "Get my wife over here."
Hey. The guy made a living.
I think before they
Tom Cole. I mean, all the things that Tom Cole.
Well, fucking Tom Cole. No, they really should look into inducting the staff part of WWE, people behind the scenes, stuff like referees, stuff like that.
I would say today's. I would say if you go back before COVID time to the people who actually worked there, made the company what it was.
Tony Schimmel. Tony Schimmel.
Yep. Tony Schimmel, Mike Chiodas, the Hebners, the Morella, Joey Morella.
They can't put Earl in there because he was too busy selling WWE knockoff merchandise out of his trunk.
Okay, if you're going to do that, Earl Hebner to me has the Pete Rose effect. What he did in the ring should be different than what he did outside the ring.
He was selling knockoff merchandise out of his trunk, Gerard.
During the match, Earl Hebner in the ring is by far and none one of the greatest referees.
Absolutely. Ever. He was still selling knockoff merchandise out of his trunk.
So have you looked up the pictures?
So Pete Rose, so you're in your mind that Pete Rose shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
You will not talk ill of Pete Rose. He's the only man who has the most attacks on Kane ever. He's the greatest.
I'm just saying is though, and that's what I'm saying. You know, the guys who made WWF, WWE what it is today, like the Ultimate Warrior mentioned the man's name. You wouldn't see the merchandise flying the way it does today if it wasn't for that man.
Yeah, and fucking Earl would not have more knockoff merchandise to sell out of the trunk of his car.
Let it go.
Brian Hebner, absolutely. Brian Hebner's done a fantastic job.
The Hebner family, if you want to go that route, Dave, Earl,
Dave and Brian, absolutely. But Earl needs to sit his ass in timeout because he stole the shit out of the trunk of his car.
Like I say, like the Joey Morellas. Listen, I would love to see Dangerous Danny Davis in the Hall of Fame.
I would love to see Joey Styles of all people. Actually, man, I just want to see.
I would love to see.
I just want to see.
Repo Man.
Wait a minute, Joel Gertner.
Men are from Mars. Women are from Venus. But when they come to Earth, they love to ride.
Dan, you got issues.
You don't like Joel Gertner, really?
Oh, I'm gonna say no. Listen,
neck brace, bow tie.
Hey, did you hear what I said? That Naomi robbed him of his neck brace.
Yes, he did. Yes, she did.
I would induct someone like Bill Apter into the Hall of Fame. You know, like someone like that. Like that'd be kind of cool.
Victoria needs to be there. Is Elizabeth in there yet?
No. And it's sad that they have some idiot going in this year. He didn't pull the trigger, but he gave her the damn gun.
Look, say what you want, but that man has suffered enough. All right, karma. And if you're a God-fearing man, God has punished Lex Luger enough. I think that he has done enough. He has paid his penance. Okay, say what you want. She did what she did. She's a grown woman. Granted, he was there, and they were both doing stupid shit. But for any guilt he has, look at his body. Look at everything. He went from being the total package to this frail individual. Look, if you don't believe in karma, look at Lex Luger. He went to sleep with his neck in an awkward position, and you have doctors who to this day can't tell you why that happened to him, that he became paralyzed. And he's now a DDP. He's cleaned his life up. He's done everything he could to get it straight. If you can't find it in your heart to forgive the man, then I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, he reminds me of, if you ever seen the movie Thinner, it's a Stephen King movie.
Yes, he looks horrible.
He looks like the gypsy walked up to him and said, "Thinner."
I think I don't know. I mean, the whole Luger thing. I mean, it really is what it is. Like Dan said. I mean, Elizabeth, she really, the drugs be what they are, And
again, people used to hate Randy, but all Randy was trying to do was protect her from that life. Because I think he knew. I think she knew that who Elizabeth was. I think as sweet as we thought she was, as wonderful as we thought she was, I think he knew his wife better than anybody else.
You know what the sad part is? If you look at the way he died, just driving down the street and having a heart
attack. Had a heart attack, yep.
And that's the problem. And who would have thought Randy would have died that way? Everybody would have thought Randy died the way Liz died. He just
let's say that, but Randy was very clean. He was back with his childhood sweetheart. Yeah. He was in Sarasota again. He was happy.
Yep. And he just died of natural causes.
And you look at someone like Hogan. That's why this is the reasons I don't believe Hulk Hogan when he says he made peace with Warrior and with Randy, is because look at the life he's living now. He's forced to still live, and everybody hates him.
The only reason why Warrior and Hogan made peace was because WWE had a camera in their face and they were filming it. That's the only reason why that exists.
No, what you just said, I believe of half what you just said. The only reason why Hogan made peace, because there was a paycheck at the end of it.
Oh yeah, of course. Because when Randy died, Hogan said, "Yeah, no, brother, we made peace. We ran into each other at a barbecue, and we made peace, brother, and it was cordial, and it was very, it was sad, brother. Yep. I also wrote that song for that kid with cancer, brother."
But listen, guys, Dan, as you might know, we are coming to the 2:00 hour, to the 2-hour mark. Okay.
Yep.
And Jacob, as you already know, next week is going to be somewhat of a special show. So all you
early.
We are going to have a show next week, but I will not be sitting at home. I'm going on vacation again. But I'm going to be doing the show on location.
Nice.
What location? We'll let you know. And I could have some very good news next Sunday night, too. I'll let you all know that.
We'll be early next week, too.
And we will go in 5 o'clock Central Time, which is 6 o'clock Eastern Time for 1 week, just because of somebody's work schedule. So Hogan lies more than a rug.
Yep.
But so next week's special time, 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern. And then we'll be back to our normal time the week after that. But we will be continuing the WrestleManias leading up to WrestleMania 41. And until then, Jacob, Dan, Gerard, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah.
All of you Marks have been listening to the Marks Podcast on YouTube.
Calling all the grappling fans, from body slams to high-flying plans. Join the chat, hear the scoops. Jump in quick, don't be a stoop. We're throwing down in every match with tales and fights that you can't catch. The Marks Podcast is the place to be for every wrestling news.